Real women.
Real talk.
Real messy.
This is Messy Midlife.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Messy Midlife. Hey, ladies.
Hey,
Hi.
Jen. Hey, Karen.
So, what's on your mind?
Well, it's really nice to see you both. Sadly, not in person. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you guys what's on my mind today is some of the things that have come up health-wise for me since I last saw you and why I might not be fully myself today. So, you guys know I had a couple of emergency room visits. I tried to avoid them, ended up in the emergency room. Anyway, and most recently it's for some neck pain stuff that I've got going on. Led to really, really severe, like best I could describe it was sciatica in my arm, right? So like cervical radiculopathy is basically it's what I'm experiencing. So I'm on drugs right now. I'm on medication that is making me feel a bit loopy. So that's what's on my mind. And so I might not fully sound like myself and I might not make full sense today, to be perfectly honest. So I'm glad I'm talking to you guys and not trying to work or see patients or anything like that.
Well, you've made sense so far.
Yeah.
I was going to say what's on my mind is I'm really tired, which I think you both can relate to right now,
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Life has
Yeah.
been super full, and I'm just realizing I think I've kind of hit a wall a little bit.
Yeah. So my dog is going through some like pain herself and she's slowing down. And I realized that my dog is about the same age as me, like trajectory wise, right? She's 7 years old. And so she is in her mid to late 40s. And I am in my mid 40s right now. And so she's like legitimately slowing down. She can't do walks as long as she used to. Her tendons are starting to bother her. She's a little limpy sometimes. I'm having to like cut her walks down because she just can't do as much. My husband is skipping her evening walk that he normally does with both dogs. He's like leaving her at home and she's like, "Oh, thank God." Like she's not even upset about it. And I'm having both like this feeling like I'm giving her so much grace that I'm not extending to myself necessarily. And when I want to extend that grace to myself, I start to feel sad, I think is the right word. I mean, I think it's only sad. I mean, I'm not always the best at emotions, and my therapist would agree. And I have an emotion wheel up here because I have to pull it down sometimes and say, what emotion am I actually feeling? So many of us don't actually know our emotions, do we? But like, oh, just looking at my dog and seeing us go through some similar things at the same time is just, I don't know. Like for some reason it's easy for me to accept that my dog needs rest and that she's just getting a bit older and she's just going to start to slow down. And that's okay. But it's not okay for me. Am I the only one?
No, not at all. I mean, I come across this every day when I'm talking to my patients, right? And telling them, like, give yourself the grace to be human. Like, things don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to always be going. I should be looking in a mirror. I mean, I say that to my patients. I recognize that as I'm saying this to you, I should be looking in a mirror saying it to myself also. It's so easy to do for other people, and it's really hard to do for ourselves.
It's like I'm two people, right? Like when I am showing up in that way for my patients, which is mirroring exactly what you just said, Eliza, I am 100% there. Like I believe they deserve this. I want this for them. I am rooting for them. I want to troubleshoot and brainstorm with them. It is in my mind so possible and so important. And then when it's me, I really struggle with that. And sometimes I try to bring that into sessions because that's oftentimes how they feel, right? They feel like, whatever. I'm not deserving of that. I don't have time for that. There's so many fill in the blanks that we can put in there. And I guess that's also why it's so important for us to have our own this as well as our own providers that can hold that space for us. Because I do think it is important for us to have a space where we can be held, because I think at this point in our lives, in this messy midlife, we are the holders of all the things. We are the keepers of so many things. And so having our own providers to do that for us, I think is key. I don't think it's everything because there's so complex, but I think having our own providers is really important.
Yeah, and, like, I think you nailed so like, when you said this, we're the what did you say? We're the holders for so many things.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at my dog and I'm like, "Okay, you probably have 5 to 7 years left," because she's a big dog, right? You'll probably hear her in the background at some point. Probably 5 to 7 years left, maybe more. So I wanna make those years the best I can for her. I, on the other hand, had a child late in life, but not only one do I need, I feel like this responsibility that I need to live into my 90s to be present for my daughter when she's at the same age I am and going through some stuff that like I can be there to help ground her the way my mother is for me, right? Because I'm lucky. I'm one of those people, I don't have mom stuff to work through. I have like a loving, supportive, really good relationship with my mom. And I'm working to create the same thing with my daughter. So I look at my dog, 5 to 7 years. Okay. If I'm like 92, yeah, just freaking rest when you're 92. But I've got like 40 years that I gotta work through to like still be present, healthy, and for my way in life, right? Like all of these things. And if I'm not working, how does that like what's that get taken care of? Like if I'm not the one stepping up to do the things in my home, what's happening? Like and how am I letting my husband down? And how is my health or my restrictions or my limitations inadvertently impacting his life negatively? Like that he like not only am I not getting the things that I want from my life, he's not getting the things he wants from his life. So there's both like the logistical, like there's stuff that has to get done and who is going to do
Mhm.
it except me? There's
Mhm.
stuff I have to do to take care of the very long, hopefully, life that I still have ahead of me. And also like the question of like, is this the best it's going to be? Is it just downhill from here? I was hoping I was going to be a lot older before I felt that way. But then, of course, like I'm right on target with that whole study that came out last year, 2 years ago, that like 44 things really take it. I mean, I'm a little past 44 now, but so but I'm just still in it, right? I'm still in that big change period where you just rapidly age. My mom says it settles down for a bit and you feel decent for a while and then you have another one. And that's also what the report showed.
Cool.
So,
But I think a lot of that is like, how much do you push through what we're going through right now? How much do we keep pushing through, which I think then definitely accelerates
right. It
that
becomes
downward
changing.
slope, right? Or do we pause and take a breath? Like, I mean, this is like a huge, you guys know this is like a huge thing I'm working on right now. Like, do I pause and take a breath and say, what's happening right now is happening, and it's actually okay if things slow down, and it's okay, which is so hard for me. It's okay if everything doesn't get done. I
Mhm.
will never get done everything I want to get done in a day or a week.
Nobody will. Yeah. Like,
Accepting
impossible.
that
Yeah.
and recognizing that and being okay with it. Like this move, you guys, I just moved. This move was huge in that. Like walking into the kitchen and seeing stuff everywhere where you couldn't even use the kitchen and just having to not have a panic attack about it and say, this is okay. It will get dealt with. It might be in a couple days, it might be in a week, it might be in 2 weeks. Like everything will settle into its place and
Mhm.
that's okay. Letting some of that pressure of it getting done go away for a little bit, I think is the key. Because I think if
Yeah.
we keep up the same pressure that we've kept up for our first 40 some years, it's only going to get worse. I think this is the part that's like super important right now is taking that pause and like having that reset.
Yeah.
Because I think if we don't do that, it's going to get worse.
So you wanna hear how my brain goes with this?
Yeah.
So, of course, I go to you're right. Like, right now is my chance. And I feel like everything in life right now, I feel like we're at the age, every decision has broad reaching impacts for how we're going to have the rest of our lives. I don't know. It feels like a more weighty time to me, right? Like every decision feels like it matters just a little bit more than it used to, right? Or maybe not just a little bit, maybe a whole lot more. And it feels like it matters in a way that it probably won't even in like 10 years. But I feel so my response to that is okay, yes, I need to slow down a little bit. But how is first and foremost. How do I slow down and what is that going to do to me like big picture?
Well, I'm hearing both of you, and the need to slow down, I think, is where we naturally gravitate to because things are unmanageably heavy and just intense and a lot. And we also recognize that we have to there's so many things that are just non-negotiables for us,
Mhm.
right? So slowing down and taking a breath is really difficult to tend to those non-negotiables. The balance, the dialectic, the gray is both, right? Like we have these non-negotiables. How do we tend toward non-negotiables while holding grace for ourselves, the way we hold grace for our fur babies and our patients and literally everyone except ourselves in our lives? And I think that's what this conversation is about. What realistically can we do that? I think there is a way,
Yeah.
but you have your thoughts, so we can circle back to that.
So one of my thoughts was that like so many of the things that are showing up to say, hey, here's the things you're gonna have to deal with for the second half of your life. Cause like the first half of my life was primarily like mental health stuff that I had to deal with. And I worked through that and I worked with several different doctors. Homeopathy really helped and like really healed those things. And it's not a challenge for me anymore. So many of the things that I'm having to address. Yes, there's some opportunities for homeopathy and naturopathic therapies, and I want to talk about that a little bit too. But there's so many things that like just are requiring more from me from like both medications, just because I have a tendency to go from nothing to everything, right? Like I go from completely fine to worst pain imaginable ending up in the emergency room, right? And this is like not the first time that that's happened. So all of the things that I am, not all of them, many of the things that I'm dealing with, that one of the first things, if you look it up, if you like go to Dr. Google, one of the first things it says that you need to do is lose weight. And so I feel like, okay, if I slow down, what can be removed from my day-to-day life that won't let other people down or that won't somehow negatively impact other people. And the first thing to go is usually exercise, even though I feel significantly better. And at the same time, like I'm also been trying to figure out, like we talked about it in our last episode, I think, about navigating this like too much being more of a problem than too little being a problem. And so anyway, I guess I just get into my head about like, if you slow down, how do you address this one thing that also probably because of the whole like constellation of all of the things, plus being in the perimenopause place, except like I'm on medication to force menopause because of one of my conditions, endometriosis, in case I hadn't shared that yet, that is like flaring again even after surgery. I just don't know, one, I'm in this constant battle about weight loss that I've been in for my whole life that sometimes is about how you look and sometimes is about your body and like trying to navigate all of this and how do you slow down and address this thing that is like the first thing when they're like you have degenerative changes in your spine and like it's not just in my neck, it's also in my lower back. And homeopathy helped with the pain of that, but like it's still going to continue to happen. And how much of like intense exercise contributed to that happening on an earlier side, right, in my time in the military. And like yeah, it's see, I spin out.
But Jen, there's a couple of things. Okay, so let's get back to reality. We're all doctors. We don't need Dr. Google. Dr. Google is not a reputable source of
I know.
information. So
It's not just Dr. Google.
I know, but
Every doctor I talk to.
I know, but we also know that that is the answer for everything. I don't care what symptom you come in with. And look, I had that fear with all the arthritis stuff, right? What if I go into this new rheumatologist and she tells me I have to lose weight and I have to talk to her about my history with really terrible eating disorders and go into that, right? My arthritis is the worst in my hands. My hands do not hurt because I'm overweight.
Mhm.
And I also want you to think about this too. And I think this is important to say. People that are very thin and a lot lighter also have a lot of degenerative changes in their cervical and thoracic and lumbar spine. So weight can maybe contribute to perhaps a little bit more pain, but weight is not the cause of it. So I think number one, we have to just like be clear on that.
Can I just tell you really quick? I had so my I have labs that are like going up again that were like, okay, why is my inflammation going up again? Like I don't eat terribly. Why is my white blood cell count going up? Why are my platelets going up? Why is my cortisol going up? And like, my primary care doctor, who's not an expert in like women's health by any stretch of the imagination, of course, and that's not, and honestly, it's not a typical presentation anyway. My gynecologist has also said that, but like these are all labs that were elevated when my endometriosis was in like a ginormous emergency room flare, right? But he's like running around trying to like do like he's a fantastic. Like so really I appreciate my primary care doctor so much, especially within the VA. Like he goes the extra mile and I really appreciate that. So he's consulting with, hematology, he's consulting with rheumatology, all these different people, and they're coming back and saying it's because of her weight that like if she loses 10% of her body weight, then you'll see the CRP, the high sensitivity, C-reactive protein. We'll see that go down. And I had to say, except my C-reactive protein went down immediately after my surgery for endometriosis. And I'm also 15 pounds lighter than I was when it went down. So I've already, maybe it's not 20% of my body weight, but it's pretty close to 20% of my body weight that was lost. And it's now back up. So that argument makes no sense. But it's still there, even their
Default.
that just so like
The
if
default.
But
anybody's,
that doesn't make it true.
I know that, but I
Shouldn't be
just needed to
saying that.
acknowledge that in case
Yeah.
anybody was listening, that they've been
Yeah.
told that weight also increases CRP. It's not just that.
It's not. And that's the thing is, your PCP, great. He's doing the work and he's going the extra mile, but that doesn't mean everyone he's consulting with is. And I think it's a really generic, easy answer. And I think this is the problem that we all get caught up in, right? Going through perimenopause and gaining weight is, oh, it's just weight. And we know that that's not true. Like we know the science behind it to know that that's not true. But something that came to me, like both when you were talking, Karen, and when you were talking, Jen, is Karen, you were saying about like, what are our non-negotiables? We have to get Jen. I think this is our time though, that we kind of have to renegotiate those non-negotiables. Like things that were a non-negotiable for me, maybe 5 years ago, that shifts. And I think that's where we can't stay in this like static place of like, but this has to be this way. Like we know for ourselves also, like a non-negotiable for us is having the time to decompress and having the time to do what we need to for our bodies, right? Whether that's going on a walk on the beach with our dog, or if that's swimming or walking laps in the pool, or whatever it is that's our time, we know that's a non-negotiable. Whether or not my house is vacuumed, for me, that's negotiable now. Like where it didn't used to be, right? Like I couldn't sit and study in medical school if my house wasn't perfectly clean,
Yeah.
right? Now it's like, well,
Thank
it's
God we
what
don't
it
have to do that
is.
anymore, at least, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think we have
What
to
are those of
accept
us
it.
with ADHD who've always been fine with piles and stuff everywhere? What do we have that we can give up when we don't have perfection that we're holding on to?
I don't know, but I think maybe it's like what we expect of ourselves. Maybe it's not like the stuff around us, right? Like you were talking about, I don't want my exercise to be the first thing that goes because that's what makes me feel the best, right? But maybe it's letting go of some other commitments. I mean, you've done that, Jen. I've watched you do that in the last couple of years, right?
And
Not
that's
saying yes to
yeah,
everything. It
yeah.
can keep happening, and I think that that's where we hold ourselves to this like standard of what we think is okay and that we need to be doing. And I think that we also just have to like take a breather. I remember one of my teachers, I think I shared this with you guys. One of my teachers said, "You're a human being, not a human doing." Like we have to be good with being, right? And that's uncomfortable for a lot of us that are used to like a go, 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 get it done, our little type A personalities, right? But I think that's really important, like giving ourselves the grace to say, you know what? I know there are a million things I can be doing. It's sunny out. It's beautiful. I could be doing all these things. But what I really want to do is lay on the couch and watch a movie and just turn my brain off for a little bit. Like that's also okay. And giving ourselves permission to do things like that is super important, I think.
I agree. And I think vulnerability plays a role here again, right? I'm sure all women of all walks of life have this comes up for all women of all walks of life. I can speak specifically to the high achieving professional woman slash mom slash all the things on top of that, that I think I know this struggle well. I'll just put it that way, right? Because I can't speak for other people who have different journeys, but there is some element of in order to in order to achieve X, I have to turn off Y and Z. Like I have to be able to suppress my vulnerabilities, whatever those may be, in order to build something. Through medical school, I mean, those were the worst, most stressful years of denying myself and suppressing myself. And then it just continued, right? Because now you're building a practice and building a family, and then, plus the practice and paying off the student loans. And, so it's so cumulative. And so I think that I don't have the answer, but I do think that there is a reconnecting to our vulnerable selves that is necessary in order for us to be able to have that grace.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like I represent a person who's has been trying and taking efforts. And I appreciate, Elisa, that you brought it up, because I have definitely when I was hospitalized, so spent 12 days in the hospital last summer. So we're coming up on the anniversary of all of that fun stuff. So hopefully it does not happen again this year, knock wood. And my second hospital admission, I was just like, okay, my life is killing me. I have to step back. Like, this is not okay that I didn't end up in the hospital because of the things that I did. As my life didn't necessarily put me there. The conditions that I was hospitalized for were like unrelated to my life or lifestyle. They were going to happen no matter what, no matter my size of my body, no matter my lifestyle. And the stress that I was allowing into my life, and the ways I was. So I'm like, people think I'm a type A person. I am not. I am a type maybe A minus, but I'm mostly a B that's like trying to pretend that I'm an A. And like, I've figured it out, and I've like, I mean, I guess masked. We talk like, now that we know that I have ADHD too, like was I just masking that? And like, I learned really, really well how to do it, and I got praise. And so I did more of it. I don't know, but I'm not really a type A person, but I've learned how to live that life. And because I'm not really a type A person, it probably has created more stress in my life. And if there's a little spark of inflammation, it helps it go crazy, right? So I sat in the emergency room. Well, not in the emergency room, because I was on a lot of like heavy duty pain meds. Once I was in the hospital and I was like, not a little bit more like had control of my brain, I sent a lot of emails and said, I am stepping off of this committee. I can no longer serve on this. I'm not going to do this anymore. Please remove me from this email list. 2 boards that I am on currently, I said, I will stay on this board, but you need to understand it's in limited capacity. And if you can't accept that I will basically be at the meetings once a month and sharing my thoughts, and that's it, then I need to step down so you can find somebody else. And unfortunately, they said that they wanted me to stay and said nice things about me. So of course I was susceptible to agreeing to stay. So I did all that, and they're not really like big stressors in my life. I'm easy, like at least I don't think they are. So I'm like in the place where I've shed so much already. How much more can I shed without retiring, you know?
Yeah,
And
but is it the things that you're doing, or in the day-to-day, the pressure that you put on
yeah, yeah,
just
that's exactly what I was going to
like
say. The mindset. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't think it's about like, "Oh, I have this meeting, this meeting, this meeting." I think it's still the pressure and the expectation we put on
Yeah.
ourselves just in our day-to-day existence of being a
Yes.
mom, being a wife,
How we show up.
or that type of stuff. There isn't an answer. I mean, right? Like there's not this like, "Oh my god, you guys, let me just tell you what to do." Like, we know that that doesn't exist, but I think it's just, I guess, in a way, also being okay with the fact that that perfect answer doesn't exist, and we're just gonna try, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to figure out what works for us. There's not this
Mhm.
formula of how to do it. Um, but we're just gonna have
And
to see what feels good to ourselves. And I think that's maybe what it is, right? Is like, I mean, for how long, I mean, I know in my life, the bulk of my life, I didn't really pay attention to what felt good or what felt bad. I just did. And so maybe that's part of the lesson too, is like really tuning into what is right for me right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
listening to that and paying attention to that, because I think we are all, the three of us and probably everybody that's listening, we're all very good at tuning that out, right? We're all very good at just like, well, I just got to get this done. It doesn't matter if it's good for me, right for me, helpful to me, in my best interest. We just do it anyway. And maybe that's what this part is about, you know?
And Jen, everything you've done and all of us, I think we've all been working really hard to simplify, remove the non-negotiables is necessary for us to have the bandwidth and the space to start looking at what is the reality, what is mindset created that external reality. And now that we've kind of reeled some of that in and cleared it out, how can I change? Because we know thoughts and energy work much more quickly than our external world. But sometimes, in order to have the energy to change our thoughts and our, you know, internal state, we have to clear up the external world, which I think that's what we've done. And I think it's really easy to get stuck here and not take the next step at doing the housekeeping here and in our hearts, right? Which I think is where we are. That's the next step
Oh,
of
Karen,
how.
you're gonna make me deal with my lifetime of feeling shame. That's where you're going. We just have to like just
I
tackle the
didn't.
shame is at the core of all of the things.
That's all. That's all.
Yeah.
No
That's all
big
we need to do.
deal.
Yeah. And how that ties into, the default setting in conventional medicine of and sometimes alternative medicine, as we've discussed, right? Weight loss is the answer in so many fields, the default BS answer, and how that fuels the shame that has grown for 4 decades, right? For us. It's not a small thing to look at. And I know it's not just weight loss, but I feel like that just symbolizes the uphill battle that we're dealing with here, right? Like that society has been contributing to within us and just perpetuates these internal, whether it's the chicken or the egg, where that was sparked, but it is now here. Topics such as, well, it's because you need to lose weight, which talk to any woman in her 40s. There's not a single woman in her 40s that isn't dealing with that internally or environmentally, right?
Or
Because
essentially the opposite, that they need to gain weight depending on what it is that they're dealing with. So I mean, it goes both ways, right? Like it's not everybody needs or wants to lose weight. Not everybody, some people need or want to gain weight. And so it does go lots of directions. Maybe, and I think I have to believe there's somebody, at least one person out there who's just truly happy with where they're at. And right? Like there has to be somebody. There has to be.
Funny that you say that, because I was just mind blobbing yesterday when I had the house to myself and it was nice and quiet. And I was just like looking at videos of, like, when they do the videos of like what people wore, and it's in Milan and in Lisbon, wherever, like in Europe. And it was one of those, what are the women wearing in the summer? And it was, I forget where in Europe. It was so many different body types.
Mhm.
They were showing all of these like, like chic, effortless styles, but so many different body types. And like I had that thought yesterday. It's so nice to see that represented. It's so nice for that to be the norm, right? That's actually kind of what I love. Part of the reason I love going to Europe is I just think there's so much more of an acceptance of that too. So I do think I think that exists somewhere, Jen. But I think, I don't know that it's in Southern California. I think it's definitely a bubble here, like kind of an alternate reality of what people really look like. But yeah, I felt like I could breathe easier watching. I was like, oh, this is just like, this is so, like, makes my heart feel so good to see this.
So what I need to do is I just need to retire and move to Europe.
We all do. We all do. Or
If my
figure out how
husband
to,
happens to listen to this recording, I will never live down having just said those words.
Well,
Just
maybe we don't have to retire and move to Europe. Maybe we just have to.
I wanted to go back to representation,
Uh-huh.
and how important that is, at least specifically in this topic. I think that it is a very important topic for many groups, but specifically as it relates to decreasing shame, helping us to digest and process the shame. Representation is so critical, right? Women happy and fashionable and enjoying their lives, as if that exists, even if it's just slightly, even just clothes, right? Like Eliza, you were alluding to that, right? Like you don't see that much. You see frumpy, like baggy, concealing clothes for women who aren't a size, single digit. We'll put it that way. And I think that we need to see more of that. And we need to see more of this, conversations like this, where this is reality for so many women, especially women in this stage of life, to normalize and hopefully take it a step beyond that to really be able to thrive in our lives and in our bodies the way that they are, and for other people to see that, because the less we see of that, the more shame grows. And as shame grows, vulnerability decreases, and vice versa.
I just have to say, and maybe it's because I'm not following enough Europeans. Maybe that's what it is. But like, if I'm looking at my social media, and I took a lot of effort after I learned about intuitive eating and was really trying to do the work of embracing my body as it is. And I am a lot better about embracing my body as it is than I ever was before. The body I used to be aiming for is not even something that's in my radar right now. So I've watched these social media influencers or whatever, these people who are there and they're showing the style for people who are bigger or whatever, and like lots of different things. And like half of them now are getting surgery or are on like
Mm.
GLP-1s, like at least half of them. And then they're like, they disappear for a while and they come back and they're like, look at me. Like sometimes losing weight is loving yourself. One of them like truly said that. And I'm just like, and you know what? The thing is like that people are entitled to whatever journey that they want to have. I'm just, it's not fair, honestly, as I'm like working through this out loud right now. It's not fair for any of us to expect somebody to stay a certain way that maybe they're not comfortable with just because it makes us more comfortable because they're doing that. That said, if they're getting paid and they're like got their followers for that purpose, it's disappointing to see things change. And it does send the people on a little bit of like a wait a minute, I thought I was feeling like this was okay and I was feeling better, but now I'm feeling like maybe not.
But that's what it's about, right? It's about like having somebody like you validate your existence, and then the shame that you feel when that person changes and it suddenly makes it not okay for you to be this way.
Look at you guys giving me all sorts of things for therapy.
I mean, it's all of us, right? I mean, we all feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think that's also like, I don't know, who knows what's behind everyone's own weight and what's brought them to this point, right? I think for like, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but for me, it's just knowing how unhealthy I was mentally when I was probably half my size now. And I think that for me, it's not about necessarily looks or health or anything. It's just how unhealthy I was mentally for so many years
Mhm.
while I was in that smaller body. I mean, I was thinking about that, if I had gained this weight 5 years ago, 10 years ago, be losing my mind, you know? And
Mhm.
the kind of I don't want to say like the peace, I don't feel peace with it, but I'm definitely like calm with it. Like I can think through it logically. I know the science behind diets. I know all of that, right? So, um, it's definitely a different place to be in. That feels like I feel so much more sound
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally about it than I ever did
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
And so maybe some people just are in a different place, right? We all have our different stories behind it.
It's just so interesting. I'm reflecting on the ways that friendships change around this thing that shouldn't be that significant, but ends up being so significant. And I wonder, well, no, not I know that men don't have relationships that change because of this, but, like, I have seen people build their friendships around hating their bodies. And then I've seen other people build friendships around accepting their bodies. And then when somebody goes through a place where they're not in that, they're not doing so well in that, they lose that friendship. So it's not even necessarily about like what can and can't be done. Because I mean, my husband, I could see him losing some friendships if he can't mountain bike anymore or something like that. Like that it's built around an activity that they love and they do together. But just how you feel about yourself can make or break a female friendship. It's just
So many layers.
how do we break that?
Yeah, so many layers underneath that.
Well, beyond weight, I'm also stuck with all the treatment options and all the different things that I need to consider for endometriosis and now for the issues with my spine and like the stuff that is causing me distracting levels of pain. I can't sit with friends that I love and rarely get to see because I can't get comfortable and I can't pay attention. I'm doing a pretty good job right now, even though I can't get comfortable, even with medication right now.
Should we talk about that? That you're here and you're not comfortable and you're still
Maybe
here.
this is part of the challenge. I know that no matter what, I'm not going to feel comfortable today. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not. Like maybe I could go lay on flat on my back in my bed and maybe I would be comfortable. But then I would get very uncomfortable very quickly because there are things that matter in my life. Talking to the two of you matters. Going to physical therapy matters. I'm going to have lunch with a possible friend and that matters, and so that's part of my challenge is that I feel like I'm looking at 40 plus years of this. And I know I'm still early. I'm still early in this and we'll see what my options are. And I'm sure there's going to be something that will help me. But this is where I like kind of get stuck with, okay, here's what the conventional practitioners are going to say. Here's what naturopathic doctors and functional doctors are going to say. Here's what a homeopath is going to say. And to be perfectly fair, my sciatic version of this, so my lumbar version of the same thing that I'm having now in my neck, I did find relief through homeopathy and some, not so much physical therapy, but Pilates. So those two together did bring me some relief. And it's not really a problem for me anymore. So I'm like, maybe I need to call my homeopath again and get this taken care of. And that's probably a thing I should do. I should at least try. Since it helped with my lumbar, it will probably help with my cervical spine. But then I get in my brain as like the doctor who knows too many things, right? And I'm like, yeah, but now you got all these other things that you didn't have that time that you have to take medication for. So it's changing my constitution. And am I even going to be responsive to a gentle therapy like homeopathy? And then,
You don't have to know the outcome to try it.
Right.
that's
So I
very
think
true.
that's where we need to step. Like we need
Yeah.
to help each other step back. It's like there's
Mhm.
no harm in trying it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're saying I'm not going to do other things that could help by trying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some things that could be harm in trying. Not homeopathy's.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just pause right there. Yes. That's the starting point, right? That's the starting point. It's not going to cause harm. It's not going to interfere with all of these new treatments and modalities and things that you're learning about where your body is right now. I keep going back to you saying there's so many things that matter. You kept saying that, right? Like, well, maybe if I laid flat, it might get better. And then you started talking about all of the things that matter, which I get that. I understand that. They matter on a personal level, they matter on a professional level, they matter on a family and community level. There's nothing about that statement that I disagree with. I can totally relate to that statement. There's so many things that matter. And as soon as you started talking about that, so there was this window of maybe if I lay flat, I might be able to get comfortable. So there is a possibility that you might find comfort in resting, right? Horizontally,
Yeah.
potentially. There's a possibility. Then you started talking about all of the things that matter. I'm not disagreeing with any of this. I'm just reflecting back. And then you started talking about, all of the complexity of how to find relief and a certain level of overwhelm and hopelessness. Even though one of the things you mentioned was homeopathy, which has been helpful in the past, but that mindset kind of like overshadowed the hope. that you have felt with that modality in the past. And there was something about all the things that matter being there in the middle between the possibility of finding relief, right? Horizontally, and then the thought of all the things that matter.
The reality is like, yes, I might feel okay if I lay flat on my back and in one position, but I'm going to be mentally uncomfortable just laying
Mhm.
flat, right? And even that it's a temporary thing. Like I can't just lay on my back flat forever because one, it will start to feel uncomfortable in other parts of my back and my body in general because I don't sit still for long very well, especially when I'm awake. And even when I'm like sleeping, I will wake up because if I am like laying too long because I'm uncomfortable, right? I just got back from a trip, and fortunately, being back in my own bed, I can at least sleep through the night without waking up because of how uncomfortable I am. But like, I still reach a point where like I have to get up. And so it's just palliative at best. Is it really fixing anything? Is that rest really doing anything? Because it's not going to change the fact that I've got this issue with my spine that is compressing this nerve that's making it hurt so bad. Like that's not going to change anything.
One, I think that finding some relief does change something. I think that it helps to decrease your threshold, your total burden of pain. And two, it opens space for creativity, like exploring homeopathy or other things that can be beneficial and potentially reduce your suffering. I think it comes back to the fact that it's really uncomfortable for us to have downtime in our mind, like cognitive discomfort, right?
I mean, it's a lot to think about. It's
It is.
important things to think about. And yes, there is overall value just for a human period, whether it's because you're trying to solve a problem or not, by allowing rest and allowing to just be still and not be doing, um, as Eliza has said a couple of times.
You're not alone. It's not just you.
I
I
know.
deal with the same problem, right? I don't want I want you to feel in good company.
I know I'm in very good company, and
Yeah.
I know that, like, in this moment but it's not just me. I mean, Eliza, you deal with chronic pain, and maybe it's just because it's so brand new and so acute to me, and because it's not like it wasn't a slow build, it was a, "I'm fine, I'm not fine." And I don't know which is better, like, everything with my body, guys, it's like I don't get slow builds. I'm fine. I'm in an ambulance. And like, by the way, you've had this thing that's probably been growing forever that you had no symptoms of until recently, but now they're like destroying you level of symptoms, you know? And so I don't know if it's just the acuteness of it that is overtaking all of my coping, maybe, and like maybe pushing up against the
I think that's
changes that I might need to make.
I think that's a part of it, Jen. I remember, when this started for me a few years ago, I remember feeling exactly how you're feeling. Like everything you said, I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. That was me. Right. And I think there's a panic and a fear when this stuff starts happening. I think to what you said, Karen, like, yes, it's not that it's finding that middle ground. No, you're not gonna be laying flat forever, right? That's not the solution. But maybe if you need to go do that for 30 minutes, it's a solution short term to make you then able to feel okay and have the ability to decide what that next step is, right? So I think like bigger picture, it's about giving ourselves that rest short term or doing that thing that helps us short term, even though we know it's not the solution and we know it's not what we want to be doing, right? But it's something that has to happen in order for us to be able to have the mental capacity, not be in pain to be able to figure out what those next steps are, right? And that's just part of this process.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect. And there is a lot of fear in all of this too, right? I think that same thing every day. I look at my dad and his arthritis, and I think that every day, like I'm so fearful of that being me.
Hmm.
Right, and the more I have flare-ups or when I get into a bad state, like, the more I worry about that, and I see the similarities, so I think it's really normal to feel that way.
And that fear can sometimes push us into doing more and trying to prove the fearful thought wrong, right?
Well, yeah, we can't like physical therapy our way out of this, right? We can't, like, that's not the solution. We can't rest our way out of this, but I still go to physical therapy once a week and I still give myself that rest now because I know that enables me to be able to make a more clear decision when I need to, right? So there isn't, again, there's not a perfect answer. And I don't think it's something that you're going to come to quickly, but it's just it's part of this whole process.
Yeah. Well, it brings me back to this thought about control. And like it's been something that I have been working through and recognizing how little control I have on most things in my life. And it gives me freedom and peace when I recognize like this thing that is uncomfortable is happening and I don't have control over it. It does make the thing that's happening not feel quite as bad as when am trying to exert control or believe I have some sort of control. And that I
What
think
you go
oh,
ahead. Sorry.
well, that I think is probably an important thing for me to remember and for anybody who has something similar that they're experiencing to remember because like maybe we get into it a little bit more because we're naturopathic doctors. And so the harsh reality is that there's many ways that functional medicine and naturopathic medicine is trying to believe we have control over some things that we don't necessarily have control over and taking lots of steps to try and control something that might not actually be controllable. So I don't know if we have a greater tendency to do that, but I think that even like with just the spread of information, um, and sometimes disinformation out there about health and whatever, and all these things that we're constantly engaging with, that probably a lot of people, even if they're not naturopathic doctors, believe that they have some sort of control over things that they don't necessarily have control over. And so I'm going to like wrap my part of this in just saying, okay, just set back and rest. I don't have control over the fact that this happened. And in some ways, some of the ways I was trying to control things might have contributed to it happening. But sometimes controlling to try and prevent something is just as harmful as not trying to control to prevent it, right? Like we
Yeah,
can cause as many problems for ourselves as we're trying to solve.
Mhm.
absolutely. And there isn't always going to be a root cause that we can find for something. There isn't going to be, this perfect alternative or complementary or natural solution to something either.
Right.
You know?
So Jen, what helps you? I'm trying to think of like how things that helped me to anchor into that mental state and embodiment of accepting that we don't have control over, because I know that my life is definitely better when I can get myself to that place. I know that there have been times when I've had really beautiful routines that helped me to get to that place that have had to become, unfortunately, non-negotiable. And now I'm realizing, well, maybe, I'm sorry, they became negotiable, right? They were not non-negotiable. And now as I'm listening to this conversation, I'm thinking perhaps I need to revisit this,
Yeah.
right? So my question to you is, do you have things, routines or thoughts or images that help you to anchor into that state of mind, is, that state of mind of I'm not in control in a
It's
good way.
funny because my thought as I'm listening to you is I'm like, do you have a way to control the fact that you feel like you're not in control and you want to be back in control? It feels like you're trying to like control for non-control. But I think I get where you're going to like just have like a physical reminder or a connection of some sort to it. And what keeps coming to mind, like the first time that I ever had this realization or this like relief where we're not feeling like saying I'm not in control of this gave me relief was actually with you, Karen. It was when you were doing EMDR for me because I was processing the fact that I had had two miscarriages and I was approaching my last attempt to get pregnant before I had drawn the line and said I can't keep doing this. If I'm not pregnant by my 40th birthday, I'm done. And like, I'm accepting that I'm not gonna be a mother. And you did a one-off EMDR session with me. And in that single session, because you're so skilled and so talented, you took me from being so angry and just like constrained by the fact that I couldn't control whether I was going to get pregnant or not, to feeling unbelievable relief that I couldn't control it, that it wasn't in my hands whether I got pregnant or not. I remember that so viscerally because was the first time that ever feeling like I don't have control over this felt like a gift rather than a detriment. So maybe I just need to sit with that and remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, if there was a specific target or image or something, and I can't remember that. But I actually wrote this down, the unbelievable relief. You said that I couldn't control it, but I'm just thinking like if the three of us are just like aiming for something right now, it's experiencing that unbelievable relief that we don't have to control. And in most instances can't even control so many of the things that we're working so hard to do. I think that the ultimate representation of this in motherhood is keeping our children safe. And I'm particularly vigilant of trauma, right? And trying to prevent trauma from my child or help him to minimize the effects of the trauma that he comes across. And he had a horrible bike accident that I wasn't there for, but I don't know that it could have been prevented if I had been. And how that catastrophe led me to have to dig really deep into this place because, man, it's been so long and it still
Yeah.
brings up a lot.
I remember how much that affected you when it happened and still, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Ongoing stuff.
And I can't help but feel like maybe the grounding thing for me is a hug for my daughter because so first and foremost, like she came into my life after I accepted I couldn't control whether she was going to be there or not. And from that experience with you, from that session with you, I took that and it blossomed into lots of things that I've found relief for. But the ultimate thing was like, I can't control, like she's a separate human. I can't control her. I can't control what happens to her in her life. I can't control how things affect her. And she can't control me either. To me, she is the embodiment of embracing the gift that you can't control almost anything.
Well, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. She represents that for you in so many ways. Literally her existence.
yes.
Right.
And just how beautiful and what a gift it can be to have something in your life that is completely out of your control.
Mm. Mm.
The freedom that comes with that too.
Yeah.
When you've spent your whole life trying to be in control.
I think that's probably the best place to end it for all of us.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And I would love for you to take some horizontal time.
Well, I think I will, after we wrap up and say goodbye, I can go give myself a little bit of horizontal time and get a little bit of relief and then go do the things that I also know are life-giving for me.
Yes.
That matter as much as having some relief from pain.
Yeah, but look at it that way. The relief gets you doing what you want to be doing also.
Yeah. All right, ladies, that was not where I expected us to go today. That's what I love about our conversations, right? They just go where we need to go, whether it's what we think we need in the moment. So
thank you for your willingness to follow through that, to go through that willingly, because that was uncomfortable. I get that.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for not letting the side quests take over. And we're going to circle back to this thing that we just brushed over that I'm very good at doing. And yeah, I appreciate that too. All right, ladies, love you.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys.
If our messy is your kind of messy, we'd love for you to rate, review, and follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
We'd also love to know what's on your mind. If you were to join us, what would we be talking about? Email us at messymidlifepodcast@gmail.com or message us on Instagram or TikTok.